Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Very pleased now to bring on a friend, someone we've interviewed in various programs in the past. First time on Louisiana Business Spotlight. Bruce Smith is joining us, Senior Portfolio Director with Blanchard & Company. And Bruce, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Tell our viewers a little bit about Blanchard & Company. You all are focused a lot on gold and rare coins, right?
Right. We're the largest precious metals and rare coin firm in the country. We actually started the industry. What's interesting, and a lot of New Orleanians don't know this, let alone people around the country, Jim Blanchard, who was the guy who founded the company back in the 70s, was the very guy who fought for the legalization of gold in America. We had lost that privilege, and he actually flew a plane over Capitol Hill with a banner saying legalize gold, kind of became a cult hero in the investment world. And you know, that was 40 years ago, and we've kind of been the center of the market since that time.
Well, before we get into all these other aspects, let's talk about gold for a second, because for a while, a few years ago, boy, it was riding high, and people were saying gold is a great investment opportunity because, you know, all the instability out there, gold is going to continue to increase, and then it's just been nosediving. So what happened?
Ran up to $1,800 an ounce, and 2008 to 2010, during the recession, we saw lots of new clients, lots of new business. Then, of course, gold has steadily kind of fallen off the map. And what's interesting is that, and I've done a lot of writing about this, really the smartest investors historically have always invested in high and rare coins anyway, which is a big part of our business. But obviously, a large chunk of our client base are gold investors. And what I've had to tell those guys again and again is gold is not functioning historically like it has in the past. It's not reacting to traumas like we've seen in Paris recently, and to other geopolitical and economic realities. There are a lot of reasons, a lot of theories. Talk to 12 experts, you may get 12 different views on that, but ultimately, I think it's being used as one of the many tools to manipulate currencies, keep economies afloat around the world, because we're all so connected.
So what is the current price right now, average?
Yeah, well, we're at about $1,050 as of today.
And how is that historically? I mean,
well, when I started in the business nearly 20 years ago, gold was right at about $275, $300 an ounce.
Wow.
You know, so by those standards, if you got in then, you're doing well. But many, like myself, sold every ounce we had at about $275 an ounce because we thought it was trapped thin and being manipulated by producers. But many thousands of clients who came into that narrow window, 2008 to 2010, because gold has always been a safe haven, sort of emergency asset. So in those periods, you see people flock to it, and they kind of panic in settings like this because they don't realize gold is long-term. You buy it because it's smart, not because you're expecting quick turnaround gains.
So you see eventually it coming back up?
Eventually, it's got to.
Yeah.
There are too many fiat currencies in the world that are long overdue for a collapse. The dollar, while it's doing well compared to the other basket of currencies, it's really the pretty girl at an ugly girl dance.
Now the dollar, talk if you could a little bit, since you're an expert on this, the relationship between the Fed and how that dollar is propped up.
Well, the Fed is interesting in keeping our economy afloat. So anytime you hear the Fed talking about gold, that's probably a good indicator that panic has ensued. So if the dollar is weak, historically, gold is strong. So what the Fed has been attempting to do is try and demonstrate that not only is gold weak, it's not even a player, not even on our landscape, yet America holds more gold than any other major country in the world.
Now, Blanchard & Company and you yourself focus on not just gold, but rare coins, and that's a whole different type of market, isn't it? A different type of investment opportunity for folks.
Right. And what we have seen, and I've written a lot about this in various periodicals over the course of the last year, this is happening across what we refer to as the luxury index. People are investing, especially high net worth individuals, are investing in high-end collectible assets to a greater degree than ever before. Deloitte & Touche and others have studied this, as well as big investment banks. They're seeing year over year double-digit increases in investors who are putting more net worth into individual collectible assets. So, for example, last year I placed a coin, most important silver piece to ever come out of the New Orleans Mint, for nearly $1 million. A local investor, in fact. So we're seeing that more and more. The trend is really going to the top end of the market.
So for some investors that don't want to play the market, the stock market, want to look for other options, gold
Right.
is down, so they might look at rare coins, they might look at fine art, right?
Absolutely. Fine art. Just last week, we heard stories out of Sotheby's Christie's auctions. More records were broken. Famous Modigliani painting traded for $170 million, crushing its previous record. That was only the second highest we saw for the year. We saw a $300 million Gauguin trade earlier in the first quarter of the year. And now there's talk of when are we going to see the first billion-dollar piece of art.
Wow.
40 years ago, you would think that's just ludicrous. You need to see a shrink to be talking that way. But it's happening more and more. Cars are even outpacing what fine art has done this year. And coins are doing
Antique
similar
cars?
things. Yeah, antique cars.
So we're not seeing a downturn in those type of investments, are we?
We're not seeing a downturn at all. In fact, we're seeing growth. Year on year, we are about 14% up over the luxury index as a whole. Last year, cars were up 45%. They're up 25%
Wow.
this year. Rare coins are up between 10 and 14%, depending on how you assess it.
What's the reason for that, Bruce?
People are looking for legacy wealth. People know paper assets are at a minimum questionable right now, and I think that's just a growing trend. While we hear all the political debates about the growing wealth of the 1%, and wherever you are on that philosophically, what is true, as people are getting wealthier, they're looking for investments with a narrative, something more than paper they can pass down to their families. And we're seeing more and more attention being given to collectible portfolios.
That's very interesting. And also, I had the honor of hosting a wine auction recently. You also mentioned that wine
Right.
is a collectible that's doing well.
Right, and I guess it would be appropriate to point out in light of recent events, the wine that is doing best are wines from France, Bordeaux,
Wow.
Burgundies. So yeah, they're doing exceedingly well.
Wow. So what does this tell you as someone who has written about these topics and involved in the industry? What does it tell you about the overall state of our economy today?
It's a mixed story. We were talking a little bit before we went on air, because while we're seeing great growth in the top end, and I think that trend is going to continue for the foreseeable future, it's a little bit tougher in the middling areas, though there is some single-digit growth there. But then in the more common assets, sort of the entry level, it's much tougher. I think it's an indication of what's happening in the geopolitical world and in our economic realities here in America.
I've been on radio for many years, and a lot of my callers and guests keep saying, well, there's got to be a crash. I mean, we can't keep living on $19 trillion in debt and spending all this money that we don't have. And eventually, the laws of economics are going to kick in.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
I do agree with it. That's why I think anyone that has bought gold, whether it was a decade ago or whether it was during the recession or has been buying it more recently, be smart. Keep buying it because it's a smart thing to do. You don't have to watch the prices. Longevity is what you want to keep in mind. It's a strong, safe asset, has been for thousands of years. So that's why you buy gold.
And don't you see, Bruce, that I hear that other governments are buying a lot of gold, that they're using that as a storehouse.
Right.
They're worried about maybe what the future is going to hold.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the Chinese now are going to be included in that basket of currencies that is going to compete with the dollar and other major currencies worldwide. That is definitely going to bring more people to the gold counters because China's been buying a lot of gold, as has Russia. America, where we've got storehouses. The question becomes how much is really there, because for every ounce of gold that exists, it appears at least there are many more committed on paper. So if we ever get to a point where fiat currencies are collapsing and people start calling in their gold, we may be talking about a massive flight to gold and massive increases. So that possibility is real.
Is it the same across all the other precious metals, platinum, silver as well? I mean, are they still seeing a similar decline in value in recent years?
Gold is the proxy for the precious metals complex. So as gold goes, the other metals tend to go. So yes, and in fact, silver gets a lot of talk. in the economic press, especially amongst the metals bugs, because of supply levels and manufacturing uses, et cetera. But it is much more volatile. It can move on larger percentage, and you got to buy an awful lot of it to really be packing away significant wealth. The concern there becomes, those big gyrations. A lot of people get uncomfortable with that.
What about those who say, well, it's better to maybe invest in mining operations and gold mining operations and stocks as opposed to actually owning the gold itself?
I don't know a lot of people who say that other than the miners themselves, because you buy gold not because you want another paper asset. When you invest in a mine, you're investing in a paper asset. A lot goes in to the value of that stock other than the physical commodity itself. So
have the mining operations been affected by the downturn?
They have, and some during periods have done well. Overall, it's a bit of a struggle right now. So, again, it comes down to the economics of the company, the leadership, the projects they're committed to, what they're finding in the ground. Those are dynamics beyond just owning physical metal. So our stance has been for 40 years, if you're investing in the metals, you want the metals in your hand.
Now, Blanchard & Company, you have customers all over the world, don't you?
Right.
I mean, what kind of focus do you have in the local area? Do you have a large percentage? Are people in the New Orleans area more prone to maybe invest in coins and gold than people in other areas of the country?
I think more so than I have seen in my 20 years, honestly. Yet it represents a smaller portion of our client base. We have 500,000 clients, and I would say the very vast majority are well beyond our borders here in Louisiana.
Right.
It has a lot to do with the demographics and so forth. But you would be surprised at how much wealth actually is here, and how much those guys are looking at the top tier assets.
Now, before we conclude, we mentioned off air that you had done some writings for numismatic periodicals. You want to tell us about some of the things you've been focusing on?
Yeah, coinweek.com is one of the bigger periodicals for our market, and I've published, 4 articles in the last several months that are getting some good press. So if you're looking for strategies on how to invest in collectibles, how to build a portfolio that really represents legacy wealth, you can just go to coinweek.com and enter my name in the search box, Bruce Smith, and you'll see those articles.
For people out there thinking, wow, because you're not going to get anything on CDs, right? I mean, zero.
Right.
I mean, there's no interest rates.
Right.
If they're uncomfortable with the market, which has been, very up and down, and you never know where it's going, and certainly the role of the Fed, you're saying that people should look into these options as an alternative.
For the last decade, high-end rare coins and other high-end collectible portfolios have far outpaced all the equities. So it is a great place to look if you're looking to build legacy wealth, especially for those who are long-term market players. They're not checking the price. Their temperament is not such that they just want to make a quick buck. If you're looking for long-term wealth that you're going to hand down to kids, grandkids, and beyond, then there are very few places where you can go and find significantly valued assets that are growing year on year, and it's about that big, it's portable, it's private.
Right.
You can go anywhere in the world with it. There are not many options. You may buy a rare Porsche, but you're not going to get on an airplane or a boat with a rare Porsche in your pocket.
Right, and you're probably not going to drive it. You want to keep it in the garage.
There you go. Right.
And our final question to you, as far as the economy and where things are going, do you think things are going to be changing maybe with an election coming up? You think that's going to impact the overall state of the economy?
I think it depends on our leadership, quite frankly. We're seeing a growing sense of disconcern from people from all perspectives, both sides of the political fences here in America and beyond. I think it's anybody's ball game, but I think we're kind of at a tipping point. And if we get some strong leadership, things could get very good, I think.
Yeah.
There are a lot of indicators out there that look positive, but there's a lot of concern that could tip the wrong way with some more missteps.
Very important year facing us. All right,
Yeah.
Bruce Smith, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the information. All right, and we're going to talk when we come back about some good news we can share with you from our local business world. So keep it right here. We'll be right back.